So if you're looking for a new way to approach your health that's going to help you radically change how you feel about yourself, or even if you're just looking for some tiny improvements, listen on to discover the 2 surprisingly simple ways to 10x your health in 2025 and beyond. So hi, welcome to Joyful Eating, episode 207. And today we're talking about 2 simple ways to 10x your health in 2025. But before we get to that, the best bite I've had recently, so I taught a class on slow cooking in Joyful Cooking with my Joyful Cooking group. And I actually made two slow cooker meals, but one was Chinese beef dish, which was using ground beef and oyster sauce, just cooked in the slow cooker until it was all beautiful and tender and melting and good. And then I just served that on a bed of curly kale leaves that have been washed. And then when I do things with Joyful Cooking, I always it's interactive. I get them to help me decide what ingredients to use. And I'd suggested that we either use ginger or cashews. And I think the other option was like chili peppers, but everyone voted for ginger and cashew together. So roast cashews chopped up and sprinkled over, and then fresh ginger just grated with a microplane grater and sprinkled over the top, kind of like you would do for Parmesan. And it was just so good, like combo of the freshness of the ginger, the sharpness of it, then the earthy meat, and then like crunch and the creaminess of the cashews and a little bit of sweetness there. It's like so good. Okay, it's making me hungry. So our plan today is first I'll share the story behind this 10x episode, and then we're going to share with you these 2 simple ways to 10x your health. And we'll look for each of those. We're going to look at the why and the how. And then I've got a bonus tip to share with you before we wrap up. So basically, the story behind this is I read a book, I think it was this year, but it may have been in 2023, but it was called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And so it's a book by Dan Sullivan, and who's a business coach, and a guy called Ben Hardy. And their whole premise is that actually when we want to make changes in our lives, that sometimes just going radically different and going for 10X, like completely changing, 10 timesing the results that we're getting, or 10 timesing the magnitude of the change that we're making, is actually easier than if we're just looking for incremental changes, because it forces us to approach whatever areas that we're trying to improve in a radically different way. And so I love that title and I love this concept. And so I wanted to do a podcast episode on applying this to health. So there's 2 that I think I will radically, like 10x, will have the potential to 10x your health. The 2 things are improving the quality of your meals. And then the second thing is, that's the first. The second thing is actually quantity of what you eat, but without feeling deprived. So we're going to go into more depth on each of those. So improving the quality of your meals. So why that? And basically, we all know nutrition is so important for health, like eating food that supports our body and gives us the nutrients that our body needs, while not eating too much of the stuff that just provides empty calories is the crux of good health. And so yourself that when you're eating better, like when you're eating more veggies and protein, everything feels easier. Like you feel better in yourself, you've got more energy, you're able to navigate life, you feel more empowered to navigate life and all the difficulties in life when you are well taken care of. Like when you're well nourished and your body's got what it needs, it makes a huge difference. So yeah, we know nutrition is important, and we know, yourself that how it does when you are eating better, it feels so much better. So how there's so much research around the nutrition and the different aspects of nutrition and how that plays out in health, in all the different aspects of health. So improving the quality of our meals, if we know why that's important, great. But how do we go about doing it, right? So how do we go about eating more high quality, nutritious meals and less, stuff that's not so nutritious? And basically, without a shadow of doubt, the number one thing that helps with this is learning the skill of cooking without recipes. And it's funny, I was actually coaching someone yesterday. She's in the Naturally Healthy Club and looking at changing her relationship with food and wanting to improve her health and her weight. But she was like telling me, but Jules, carbs are so easy. It's so easy just to put some toast in the toaster and put peanut butter on it and call that dinner. And so we were kind of having a joke about it. But the thing is, and like I said to her, it's actually easier for me to compared to cooking a bowl of cooking pasta or rice, it's actually easier for me to pull together a healthy meal with veggies and protein that tastes really good. That's an easier option than getting out the saucepan, boiling a pot of, bring the water up to boil, cooking pasta. I can just like the way I've set myself up, because I can cook without recipes. I've got ingredients in the fridge. I can just pull them out, pull them together. Yeah, I do. There may be something that I want to cook, maybe not, but it really makes a difference because I've got some frameworks in my brain that mean that I can do that. So it's just as easy for me, if not easier for me. Actually, eating peanut butter toast would be harder because I'd have to get the toast out, get bread out of the freezer. It's not something that I do all the time. And so the thing that I reminded this person was that the peanut butter toast feels so easy because it's familiar, because you've well worn that path of oh yeah, this is what I do. And the cool news is that the other meal formats can become that easy. They can become that comforting and that easy to do, easy to teach to. It's just a matter of learning how and learning some new frameworks. And if you want help with this, I have the exact program to help you. It's called Joyful Cooking in 90 Days, and I'll share more details about that at the end of the episode. But yeah, improving the quality of your meals isn't as hard as you think it's going to be. And it's like learning this skill of cooking without recipes and having some new go-tos is the easiest way to make that happen. Okay, so that's first, improving quality. Number two is reducing the quantity. So it's how much we're eating is the other factor, because I know from very close experience that you can be eating a lot of really good quality food, but if you're eating too much, it's still too much, regardless of how nutritious it is. And if you are eating too much, then that does mean that you have that problem with weight. So the reason why the quantity piece plays into it is because weight is such a huge impact on our health. And as much as, of course, there are so many other factors at play with health as well. Like if we are carrying more weight than we need to, it doesn't feel good, right? And so that's why the quantity is important, because it helps you get that weight to a place that feels good. You're not carrying too much. And I guess the other thing you might go, yeah, well, of course, Jules, everyone's been telling me to eat less forever. And of course, that's the messaging we get. But I think there's the nuance here, and the way to approach this really differently to get that 10x improvement is to understand why your attempts to eat less and reduce the quantity haven't worked in the past. And basically, whenever we are going on some sort of diet or some sort of crazy restriction regime, rather than listening to our bodies and working with our body to get the quantity right, we're dictating to our body. We're getting someone outside, usually some diet creator or someone to tell us how much to eat and oftentimes what to eat as well. And so then we're fighting against our body. And the other reason why attempts at eating less in the past have failed, and first of all, it's like fighting against your body. And then also it's like trying to really radically reduce how much you're eating, by this massive chunk all in one go. So you go from eating heaps of food to on this diet where you're having only whatever calories. And so that because it's such a radical change, your body freaks out and it just isn't sustainable. And so that's another reason that your attempts in the past haven't worked. And then the other factor that comes into play here is that there's a psychological component to hunger. So when we're telling ourselves, oh, I'm only eating, I don't know I don't even know what calorie a dieter would be eating, but I'm only eating however many 100 calories a day. And so then we're when we're restricting in that way, it's creating scarcity in our brains around food. And so it actually increases what's called the psychological component to hunger. So it increases our desire for food because we're in food scarcity. And so that means that, yeah, sure, you can follow the diet for 6 weeks or whatever, 21-day body blueprint, whatever. But, you like there comes a point in time where you can't sustain that because the restrictions build up this desire for food, and then something will happen, and then bang, you're back to eating like truckloads of food to counterbalance that. So that's why, like, so going too hard, like juicing too much in one go and fighting against your body and building up that psychological hunger, those three reasons are why your attempts to eat less have failed in the past, right? But the good news is there is another way. And so what we want to do instead, how you can actually reduce the quantity of what you eat without it, like without feeling deprived and without it causing this bounce back, is learning the skill of listening to your body. And when you're able to do that, and also when you approach it from a slow and steady perspective, so it's like, and do little experiments with yourself, then like that removes the problems. So because when you're listening to your body, so yeah, you're starting to eat maybe slightly less, and then your body's like, oh yeah, no, that feels satisfying. I feel satisfying. So that turns off the psychological hunger. It turns off the physical hunger. You're not fighting with your body, but then you are still eating less than you would have eaten previously. And so those little bits add up over time. And so the cool thing is that then you get that weight loss without feeling deprived and without increasing your psychological hunger. So then it becomes this sustainable thing, and you're working with your body, and it feels good, and you get to feel satisfied. So it really works. Like it's so cool that we have this ability. And like, you may be thinking, oh, Jules, but I've been ignoring my body for so many years. Like, there's no way that I could do that. And just know that I've worked with, like, myself, and I've worked with hundreds of people who have had really problematic relationships with food for decades and decades. And if they can learn to this skill of listening to their bodies, then you can too. There were a couple of people that I've worked with recently, and they've like, oh wow, they did experiments on their breakfast size, and they were like, oh, I've just suddenly experimented with serving myself slightly less breakfast, and yeah, look, I still feel satisfied, great. And then reducing it a little bit more, and so they're finding ways to reduce what they're eating without feeling deprived, where they're still feeling satisfied. And it feels really good to do that. So if you want help with this skill, like learning this skill, then I had the Naturally Healthy Club, the exact program to help with that. So I'll share the details about that at the end of the episode. But yeah, my bonus for you, if you really want to approach your health in a radically different way so that you are able to get 10x the results, and not in a fast, we've got to drop 10 pounds by Tuesday way, but in a slow, sustainable way, then my bonus tip for you is to just start experimenting with your serving sizes. So just think about your current breakfast, and just do an experiment. See what happens if you serve yourself, a third less, or 3/4 of what you normally would. See how that feels. Check in with your body. If you're not feeling satisfied at the end, of course, make sure you go back and have more. But if you are, then there's a little win for you, and you can just know that over time those little wins can add up to making radically change in your health. Yes, so if you want to 10x your health in 2025, so there's 2 fun ways to work with me to get that help, to get help to make it happen with. And the thing is that when you approach your health in a different way like this, it actually requires less effort than things that you may have tried in the past. So it's not going to take as much effort as you would imagine. There will be some effort, but not as much as you think. The 2 options are, if you want to improve the quality of your meals, is to join me in Joyful Cookings in 90 days. So it's my fun coaching group, which helps walk you through my simple, doable 3-step process for learning how to cook without recipes. So the doors for Joyful Cooking are now open. And if you sign up today, you'll start feeling better from the very first lesson as you become a confident, intuitive cook who actually looks forward to making healthy meals with less effort than it takes to pick up takeout. So that is really fun. And then the other option, if you're ready to work on the quantity piece, is for that, the Naturally Healthy Club is the answer. So it's my 6-month coaching group, which helps you change your relationship with food. So you become one of those naturally healthy people who feels in control of what you eat and where you feel better in your body and your clothes. So the next group for that's starting in March 2025. So join the list to be the first notified when applications for the group open. So all the links to Joyful Cooking and Naturally Healthy Club will be in the show notes. Okay, have a fantastic week, and I will look forward to catching you next week. Bye.